everybody is here already. If you guys can just kind of give us a thumbs up, a hello, to let us know that you can hear us okay. Just a little quick sound check, honestly. I always want to make sure because it can get a little crazy. Sometimes technology kind of fails on me a minute and then after a while it gets back together. So I'm always checking for that. So
I think it's the technology leprechauns.
Yes, agreed. That's a good way of putting it. Agreed. So when it comes to this platform here at Shoot the Shish, we are going to really focus on having a good conversation that is, one for the people. That's what we're here for. We're really here to be a resource. Okay, you can't hear me? No?
Can you hear me?
No. Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, so your sound is out on your side. See, there they go.
Okay, how about now? Still no. What happened?
It's kind of like a movie that's in a different language.
That's crazy. Wow. Okay. All right. How about now? Any difference?
Nothing yet.
Still none? Okay. Let's get
it. It was working, and then all of a sudden it kind of just tapped out.
Yep. That's how it does me. Yep. All right. So let's see.
It's like watching Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
It's crazy, man. This is crazy. All right. I'm going to try something.
Let me try something. I did see that. In I saw that. I think, let me try something.
Yes. Okay.
Yes. Can't hear you, but I can read.
Wow. Okay. That's so amazing. Wow. All right. This is amazing. All right. Anybody else on can hear me and see me okay? Please put something in the chat box area. I'm just wondering if it's just that mic. That's amazing. Crazy. Technology, I tell you. Okay. How about now? Still no.
Can you hear me still?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You sound perfect. Like perfect.
That's crazy.
Yes, this is crazy. Wow. Okay. Let's see. If I leave out of here and come back, that's gonna mess us up.
Might have to end live and then go live again, maybe. See what happens. Oh, you can hear us both well. That's insane. That's awesome.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm glad that
the channel is just distorted on one end.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Okay. Try now.
Okay. All right, cool. So he's saying don't leave. He can hear it. Okay.
Let's see.
This is crazy. Try Asia. Try to.
I'm not hearing anything on my end.
Okay. Okay. You leave. You leave.
I still can't hear.
Okay. So you leave.
Me leave. Okay.
Yes. All right. All right. So yeah, I'm just trying something to see what happens. Thank you so much, new subscriber. Thank you so much for joining. It's one of those things where technology just does what it want to do. So it's one of those things where, okay, so I hope she can join back in and no problems there. And then, let's see here. 1 second. Move me a little bit. Okay, cool. Uh-oh. I pressed the wrong thing. Asia, if you can hear me, please try it again. I pressed the wrong thing. All right, so you guys, bear with me. As you see, we have a little technical difficulties, but we should be getting it back up in a second here. I appreciate you guys sticking around and being patient, especially my new subscriber here. I appreciate you joining. So hopefully the sound is good now. Yay! We're good to go. Okay, good. All right, so welcome everybody to Shoot the Shish. Today we're going to have a community discussion about the different faces in our gun community. You know, when it comes to the gun community, this is actually part 2 of this discussion. We talked about this a couple weeks ago. I had a special guest, well, actually not a guest per se, but a friend of Shoot the Shish, Monique, joined me the last time. as a licensed firearm instructor, talking about how the faces in the gun community in her experience has also changed, as well as something that I noticed. Well, today I have joining me Miss Asia, who's also another licensed instructor, but she's in a different sector than primarily than what I'm doing here. I'm generally helping the general public. She's more so helping the security sector. So when it comes to that, she's going to give us a little bit more of her insights on when it comes to the security world, what the faces are changing like as of now. So welcome, Miss Asia. Thank you for joining.
Hey, how you doing?
So, if you can just give us just a little bit of a background of like who you are, what you do, and how you got into this field.
So I'm Asia Wallace. I am a NRA law enforcement instructor as well as DCJS instructor, NPCTC instructor, and DC SPO instructor. I got into this industry back in 2017. I'm a DC special police officer, primarily working in the housing division. So I kind of got into this because I wanted to, get my stepping stones into the law enforcement community, which I have. Now I'm looking to join a police department now that I've got my foot in the door and things like that. One of my specialties is the use of force. I'm also a use of force instructor and use of force expert.
Okay, okay. So, for anybody out there who may not be so clear about the use of force segment, I mean, it sounds like something might be easy to understand, but if you can explain that just in case.
A use of force expert is basically a person that helps different police departments come up with their force policies. In this instance, any kind of physical coercion that can be used to affect or influence how a person responds to law enforcement can be considered to be a use of force, or any way we use our words, our bodies to gain compliance from an individual is a use of force.
Okay.
So, use of force experts, we dissect different use of force scenarios. So, if the police go beyond handcuffing, even up to just simple handcuffing, we make sure that we can help. With the training division, we want to help with policy creation, and we want to help protect our departments.
Okay, perfect. Definitely seem like we need a whole lot of that.
Oh
So
yes,
I appreciate the work you do. Trust me.
thank you.
Yeah. So when it comes to, so before we jump into that, let me just say, first of all, I just appreciate everybody who's on here today. I see Global Glock 45, you're back. I appreciate you joining us again. Honestly, I just love the fact that I'm here to help people and they're actually receiving this information, and I'm hoping that it's beneficial for them. So really the goal is to have a community discussion. So as people are joining, if you guys have questions and comments, please put that in the chat box area. Me and Asia do our best to answer those questions. So it's really just about serving the people. That's what we're all about here. So when it comes to let's go back into this whole thing of the thought process that the gun community is changing, what it looks like. I said this a couple of weeks ago. As far as I'm concerned, the training that I'm providing, years ago, my primary client was a white middle-aged guy. Now it's become, I don't know, a biracial 30-year-old woman. So that's what it's looking like right now. So when it comes to the security world, what changes have you noticed over the years? What was it like when you first got into the security world, as far as what, like male, female, black, white, Asian, whatever? Like, what type of things have been changing for you?
So when I first entered the world of security and law enforcement, it was primarily male dominated, and that's even at our upper levels. We weren't really seeing too many women in positions of power amongst the police departments or amongst security agencies. So over the years, what has been matriculating is that we have been seeing a lot more women rising through the ranks, and we've been seeing a lot more women of color rising through the ranks. And then we're seeing a lot more women actually diversifying the workforce as a whole. So I would say when I began at first, I would say that there was about maybe for every one female, there were five males in, in the security industry, in the law enforcement industry. And then as we've entered 2025, I would say there's now 10 to every four males for women. So we've
Wow.
actually begun to take it over because a lot of moms are starting to see, there is a stability and a security in the security industry, and so
Mhm.
we're seeing a lot more women diversifying the workforce.
That's awesome. I mean, that's amazing. Those numbers have changed like that.
Hmm.
So it's fascinating to me because you find that you have these stereotypes out there,
Hmm.
and for anybody out there who's ever been stereotyped, like put that in the chat box area. Honestly,
Hmm.
I mean, has gender been a reason for you to be stereotyped one way or another, male or female? Because
Hmm.
I do understand that we do have people here that are male, we have people who are women, and when it comes to that, we're all here to try to better ourselves and better our community. So, anybody out there, if you're looking at this and you like what you see so far, please give this video a thumbs up because I want other people to be attracted to come here and get this information as well.
Hmm.
So, someone said, Madwoman23, thank you so much for joining again. Do you feel like men take you serious? That's a really good question.
That is a great question. So what I would say is in this industry, in particular in my industry as a DCSPO, being in the housing division, not being someone that's like, working in the museums or doing like traditional security, but actually going hands-on and doing policing. What I would say is that men take you more seriously when you take the job seriously, right? If you're
Mhm.
out there, if you're running, if you're gunning with them, they're going to take you seriously. And especially if you are articulate and you're educated, they're going to take you seriously. Does that bring some controversy? Of course, that brings some controversy. And what you have to do is you have to go out there and you have to be 10 times, better every single day in order for them to take you seriously and to accept if you are in a position of power, if you're, a position of rank, it means that you have to know 10 times more. You just have to keep
Mhm.
scaling 10x, every single time. I made sure, I think I'm one of the only women that was in my company, my agency, that decided to be an instructor, right? Out of all of the men and women, there, I took it seriously and then I gained that respect that way. Also, I was never scared to go hands on, get gun recoveries, drug recoveries. I made sure to put that work in.
Mm-hmm. No, that's definitely awesome. I appreciate you taking that extra step because we really need really good instructors out there to
Mhm.
help, guide us in making really good moral and ethical decisions.
Certainly.
Because, when police, security have certain, it's like you have this power,
Yeah.
it's this
Yeah.
power that people are attracted to. And
Yeah.
then it's like, how do you use this versus
Mhm.
abusing it?
Yeah.
So we serve the people, and that's what it's important for them to know that. And I'm sure you're teaching that in your training. So
Yes. Hmm.
yeah. So I want to know. Well, before I ask my question, I'm going to
Hmm.
have you have answer Beyondre question. Ever had to take a man to the ground?
Yeah. Most of the time, I would say that I have had less encounters with females as assailants. I have had a lot of encounters as males as assailants. Not saying that females do not become assailants, but I've dealt with more men than I would say women.
Hmm.
And in those encounters, those would be like DV encounters. A lot of men or anyone. Let me just not even just single out men. Anybody that can get into a DV situation, you have to, take that very, very seriously, and you have to know what you're getting into.
Hmm.
Out in the DC community, we have something a street drug they call water, which is like PCP. So we deal with a lot of people that encounter that drug, and we have to, use a little more persuasion in order to gain some compliance out of those people. So
Hmm.
I've been doing this, like I said, for about since 2017. So I've encountered all kinds of things, and learning those techniques to take down bigger and stronger people is something that you definitely have to learn. And taking anyone to the ground is always a risk, for officer safety. So you want to end any conflict as quickly and as safely as you can. So
Excuse
yes,
me.
I've taken men to the ground.
Sorry.
No, you're
I
fine.
don't know. I just choked a little bit here.
Yeah.
But when
Mhm.
it comes to one of the things that just popped in my head just now, you
Mhm.
mentioned PCP. Okay.
Mhm.
First of all, when I was younger, I was a teenager hanging out with my friends outside late.
Mhm.
And oh my gosh, we seen two guys going down the street like
Mhm.
stripping,
Yep.
like just taking off their clothes. And they was dancing. They was dancing to the same tune on the same beat.
Mhm.
And I was like, ain't no music playing. What's going on?
Mhm.
It's just,
Yeah.
so that was like honestly my only really encounter
Mhm.
with somebody on PCP or whatever. Because
Mhm.
later on, it was told that that's what they was on. Okay, so and of course they called it water, of course, because I'm talking about the street. So, but that was just really interesting to see that. I was like, yeah, I don't think I ever want to do nothing like that. Okay, that totally turned me off from even trying even weed at this point. Literally butt naked, definitely. I'm like Mike, like you said, butt naked. Yes. So I thought that was the craziest thing. But another thing that came to my mind too is in the gun community, one of the things that people always I hear this constantly, and I want to know your point on this about the 22 caliber round not having enough stopping power to defend you against someone who's high on whatever drug. So what's your take on that? Mhm. Right. I have to agree with you 1,000%. That's honestly one of the things that I've been saying over the years, and it's always been my personal opinion. So, I don't want to oppose my personal opinion on anybody, but you're right there in this field, So, if you're saying it, I take it more gravitated to actual, I ain't gonna say fact, but more evidence thereof to support that theory. Because at the end of the day, nobody wants hot lead going through their body, period. Like you said, it's more about the placement and where it's hitting and things
Mhm.
like that versus it being a 22 versus a 9 mil. So exactly. Hmm. Exactly. Yeah, that makes sense. And the other problem that I would have with a 22 is how, for lack of a better word, glitchy, I would say they could be. They're a little bit temperamental.
Yep.
So that would be my only thing when it comes to that. So Big Dad 444 said you pause a little bit. I have been noticing that as well. I
Okay.
don't know if it's like a Wi-Fi thing. It's like it's going in and out. Like, you okay
Okay.
a moment? Look like it's fixing itself right now.
Okay.
Somebody said they can't hear you. How about now, Patricia? Asia, can you say something else?
Yeah.
Oh,
They're saying my connection is bad. Let me see what.
okay. All right. Well, while she works on that, I just want to give you guys that perspective about that 22 being not necessarily a reliable round sometimes. So I don't see it as a defensive round because of that. It's about the fact that your gun that you have that's a 22 caliber, you have to be really particular about knowing what brand of ammunition your gun likes. Is your gun clean just perfectly well for it to work well? Is it oil just right? And so to make sure that it will work in a self-defense situation, I just don't trust it. I
Can
feel
they
like
hear
it's
me
more
now?
likely to be a jam. All right, let's see.
Can you
try.
guys hear me now?
I can. Yeah, I can. Yeah. So I'm hoping that works okay, and you guys can kind of let us know in the chat box area if you can hear okay.
Yeah.
So, well, yeah, that just kind of made me think about that 22 round, and then like you said, it does ping around in the body. So
Hmm.
ballistically wise, it's definitely doing some damage anyway.
Yeah.
So it's doing what it was supposed to do. And when it comes, yeah, that's the thing. Like
And
I it's a bad rep.
a lot of the time too, I would say that we're dealing with people that wear all kinds of layers of clothing. So we're looking for something that has
Mm-hmm.
a powerful round because we need to penetrate, through coat and make a good clean shot.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. That's a whole nother perspective. Yeah.
Hmm.
So that definitely makes sense. So when it comes to the whole, working in the field
Hmm.
as a woman, what dynamics does that bring to the table that might be a little different than a male working in the field?
Um, I would say emotional, response.
Mm-hmm.
And not saying that women are emotional, like, not saying
Mm-hmm.
things, women and men
Yeah.
are affected differently. So I would say that would be one of the major versus how men respond. Right.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. I mean, at the end of the day, women do have this rep of being emotional.
Hmm.
What I will say is men are also emotional. It's just a
Correct.
different emotion that we
Correct.
tend to see. A lot of times men, with the forefront of men's emotions is anger.
Hmm.
Everything kind of turns into anger for a man as far as
Hmm.
their emotions and how they react to things.
Hmm.
So yeah, to see a different perspective of how a woman would handle a situation, would be very interesting. How those two things would play out, one being a male and then one being a female, and
Hmm.
how those things would play out. I bet that's very interesting to see the outcome of the, what do you call it, assailant.
Yes.
So yeah, it definitely will, a subject, yes. So definitely one of those things that stood out for me, honestly. So just going back to the chat box area here right now, I do see Drew, you say you have a Glock 44. I do too, and that has definitely been my experience with that, making sure the ammunition is very smooth for that. I've been going through different brands. Just curious, Drew, what brand works better for your Glock 44? I'm just curious. So, DMV renovations, thank you for joining. It's all right, you late, but you here. We here. So just a little quick recap for you. Miss Asia is joining us today, and she is working in the security police field, giving us some insight on what it's like to be a woman in this industry and what it's like experiencing working with many other women in this industry, and how the women have actually increased our numbers in this community. So it's been a really interesting journey so far. Just getting her perspective on insight on how things work out there in the field. All right, so let's see. Global Glock, you said the Smith and Wesson is cool. Okay, and yeah, definitely Team Glock. I see that Global Glock. So, oh, somebody else, Will, you said not a fan of Glock pistols. I also have a Glock pistol. I prefer Smith and Wesson. I
Hmm.
hear you. I hear you. And I'm with you on that. I'm sorry, Global Glock. I'm not a fan of Glock either. And how about you, Asia? What's your go-to brand? What is it you like?
Springfield Armory.
Springfield? Okay, okay.
Right.
I can get that. What's your favorite XD?
Um, Not a fan of the XD series,
Okay.
but I am a fan of the Prodigy, the Emissary, and the Echelon.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Somebody making money out there. Yeah,
um,
definitely. They definitely shoot well. I do love all of that. All of them.
and I like the Canik TP9. I just
Okay,
like I
okay.
just like Canik. It's nice.
I haven't gotten into the mechanic field as much. I've shot a few, but I haven't shot enough to say what I really like, what I don't like.
Yeah.
So yeah, but so far, pretty good experience. I shot one the other day. One of my students had one. I can't remember which model it was, but when I shot it, I was like, "Oh, this kind of hurt my hand a little bit more than
Yeah.
I expected. Let me hold this thing a little tighter."
Yeah.
And
Like if I
so,
had to choose between like the Smith and Wesson 10 mil or the Springfield XDM 10 mil, I'm going with the Springfield though.
okay, I hear you. Okay, I hear you. I definitely love the XDM.
Yeah.
Honestly, I do. Yeah, I do love that. And honestly, in whatever caliber.
Yeah. It's kind of like the only reason why I don't really prefer it is because I don't safeties that much for myself. Like
hmm
just because if I like say I have to like lay down lead, I'm in a firefight, I'm not trying to worry about.
Yeah. hmm Yeah. I hear you on that. I mean, for me, it doesn't bother me at all. I mean, I'm already holding a gun like I'm supposed to anyway. So for me, that brand has not bothered me with the backstrap safety. The only one that stood out was the what is that gun? Is it the Shield that has the huge backstrap safety on it? Yes, that's the only one that I'm kind of like that thing is kind of big. They could have made that a little smaller. They made it a little smaller. Exactly. Yeah. As far as the XDM, the XDS, the regular XD, all of those back straps are perfect for me. I don't have any problems with that, with holding it. Yeah. Yeah. So definitely DMV renovation said you must don't like 1911s then. Yeah. I've not met any person out there yet who doesn't like a 1911, honestly. It's Yeah, it's the Rolls Royce of guns. Like, yeah, it shoots like butter. It's so smooth. Yeah, you froze again. Yep. Maybe try refreshing your screen and see what happens. You might leave us for a second, but you'll be able to join back. Yeah. That's crazy. She froze again. So while we wait for her to kind of see if she can get that fixed, Will, you said I can tell you that my other half can shoot the tip of a mouse with any pistol or
Hey,
rifle we have. I hear you, Will. I hear you. I'm glad that you have that other half there that can shoot that well. Oh wow, yep. Colt definitely makes a great weapon. You ain't never lied
yes,
about that. And you
yes.
definitely are a lot better now. You're not frozen.
Okay,
And
okay,
it's much more clear, and I can hear you better too.
okay. Cool,
Yeah,
excellent.
yeah. Wi-Fi. I tell you, man. I
Yeah,
tell you. Yeah. So definitely. Oh,
that's the crazy part.
gotta
We
get
have
my.
FiOS. We have it. I
So,
think my actual cellular data was getting in the way.
oh, maybe, yeah. So
Mhm.
it's the most expensive gun that both of us have. Don't know if I can really tell you that for me.
Is that with or without attachments?
That's a good question. It probably has to be my AR for me.
With or without attachments? Like,
That is a
because
very good
attachments
one.
add value, guys. Attachments
That's
add
true.
value.
Yeah, for me,
With,
it has to be the custom built AR. So, yeah.
I would say, I gotta think now. I got a couple.
Yeah. So,
Um,
yeah, you got to think
gotta
about
make
that.
sure. Let me just look around before I say it. Let's see. Um, let's just stay. It starts with an S and ends with an O.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
that'll do it. That'll
And
do it.
then
Definitely.
I have an optic on that starts with a
hmm
T, and I have a duty light that starts with an S.
Mm, yes. Okay. Well, yeah, you up
Yeah.
there in them numbers, messing with that.
Yeah. What's crazy is it's like one of my family members actually helped me get it because I was talking about it so much,
hmm
and it rhymes with 11. So
Good hits. Good hits.
yeah, good hits.
So
Yeah.
renovations for me, believe it or not, is not a pistol for me. It would actually be my AR. That is probably the most expensive gun that we have in our possession. But I typically am not the one building and putting things on. That's what D does for me, my husband. So, I just shoot. I said, oh, I like that, or I like that, then I shoot. So, yeah. Okay, okay,
And that's
okay. I hear you on that.
screams America.
I told you you gotta get some training done with me for this shotgun world. Like I'm literally
Yeah.
just venturing, tiptoeing back into it.
Mhm.
I was a little put off, starting
Yeah.
out shooting it about 115 pounds and like
Mhm.
to my shoulder. I'm like, maybe not. Now
Yeah.
I'm a little bit more weight on me. I can handle it. I shot some, a couple weeks ago. I'm like, okay, I think I can do this now. My confidence was getting back up there.
Here, when it comes to that shotgun,
Man, you ready?
I'm
You
getting it
ready?
done.
So, for anybody who is
Oh yeah.
still here, who's interested in this conversation, please put us a thumbs up for this video so we can get some more people interested in this video as well. And definitely share the video. Definitely is one of those things that I would really love for you to do when it comes to this platform. It's really out here. We're out here really trying to help others. So right now, Miss Asia has great insight for anybody who's interested in the security sector, the police force, things like that. So don't hesitate to ask her any questions. We're going to do our best to answer those questions for you guys. So thinking about that, I do have a question for you about that. So what has your encounter been like with, like a young male, like a youth age, like teenager males? Has it been, would you say, challenging to deal with that age group and that gender as being a woman?
Um. No, not in particular. I would just say that right now our youth are um, in need of guidance more so than I think my generation, just
Mhm.
because of what they have to experience. The fact that I believe that these generations don't read as much, have as much imagination, get into sports enough, have even just any kind of outlet, that um, can substantiate, their needs,
Mhm.
beyond the home. So I don't find teenage boys or anything like that any more difficult than the average woman that's committing any kind of nefarious or criminal act.
Yeah. Okay, okay. I was just curious about that because I'm thinking about, I'm very much, just as much as I'm a woman advocate, I'm a child advocate as well.
Mhm.
And Dee, thank you so much for putting this information out there because I told you guys that's not my cup of tea. I just let Dee handle it and he takes it. So he's able to answer those questions a lot better than me. For me, it's like, that's the gun? Okay, great, let's shoot. Oh, I like that. I like the way this feel. Or I don't like the way that feel. Yeah, yeah. So what I was thinking about the youth though, I was really. What you say? Say it again, Asia. Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, when it comes to the whole youth thought process, it's really hard. Oh, the A1 trigger, yeah, yeah. When it comes to the youth, though, I'm thinking about the fact of I was talking to like a bus driver one day, and he explained to me how it was time for him to retire. He was like, I'm just over these kids. I've been doing this for 30 years. These kids ain't nothing like I ever experienced before. They just like a whole nother breed. And this is a man telling me how challenging it is. And he said it was actually more challenging for him to deal with the young ladies. The fact that the young ladies are out there acting outrageous and don't give a damn about nothing, and this whole attitude that they have. He's like, it's just a whole different breed out there. And I can't imagine the experience you have to go through out there. So I guess I would ask you next, what is your challenges with dealing with young women, teenage girls?
Say that the young ladies become more of the ringleaders of some of the misconduct. I
Hmm.
would say that dealing with juveniles in any sort of security law enforcement is very, very difficult, especially with the statutes put in place to ensure that juveniles aren't uh, handled inappropriately.
Hmm.
So it is very, very hard without consulting a youth division expert
Right.
to really comprehend and kind of be able to level with some of the juveniles that we deal with, especially the young women.
Hmm.
Um, it's a lot to do with the TV that they're watching. Like I'm not
Right.
gonna, say that it's not, adult influence, playing a huge role in what's going on out there.
Hmm.
Uh, but I will say that, yeah, a lot of these juveniles, without there being some sort of exigent circumstance, you're not really going to be able to do much with them in the ways of, for us, for as far as correction,
Yeah.
and because of that, we're seeing a lot more juveniles doing and committing a lot more crimes because we have things like youth acts that are out there, and adults are, passing off, these criminal acts to these juveniles because they'll get away with it. So
Mm. Yeah.
it's kind of sad, and there needs to be something there has to be something that has to be done about it. And
Yeah.
I do understand that that frontal lobe is not uh developed for them, or neither is that mandula oblongata, but at the
Yes.
same time there has to be some sort of consequence to some of these actions that we're seeing from these young people now.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree with you about all of that, honestly. And welcome, Miss Deborah. Hey, hey, hey. Thank you for joining. So when it comes to the youth community, one thing that really stands out to me is one, we need more mentors. So as I have you guys eye in your ear, please mentor. Great mentorship is needed out here in our communities for our youth. I mean, honestly, those are the ones that's going to take care of us 30, 40, 50 years from now, you know, and we need to make sure that they're up to par to be able to provide this care to us that's going to be taking care of us. And right now, they're going in a direction that's really questionable. I mean, the fact is that a lot of them are coming out of the homes as a young adult, not having a clue what they want to do with themselves. And so they're just in limbo, just living life. All of them say, oh, I want to make money, but nobody says, oh, I inspire to be the next president. I inspire to be a doctor. I aspire to be whatever. They don't really have that goal and that vision for a lot of the young community that's coming out of school, out of high school these days. And that's one of the things that I feel like you were talking about, the lack of imagination. you
Mhm.
know so we need to keep sparking those interests in these young people and be great mentors, especially with us being in the gun community,
Mhm.
because the gun community gets this glorification about being a thug. you know
Correct.
you don't get glorification for being a police officer or a security officer, do you?
uh in some sectors you do, yeah. In some
Okay,
sectors,
from the
yeah.
youth. From the youth.
It just depends, like where they are, in their lives, in their journey. I
Hmm.
would say like younger kids definitely idolize, being, a police officer from some of the shows that they've seen. But
Yeah.
some of the teenagers may not, just because of some of their friends, maybe. But on the side, they'll come to you and they'll say, "Hey, what's going on?" and things like that. But
Right.
I know, like in my community that I was assigned to for a long time, I would have, races with the kids, play football with the kids, and things like that. So it just
Mhm.
depends on what kind of officer that you are in that community, and what kind of respect that you want to have with that community, and
Mhm.
are you getting to know the community that you're in? Especially since you do not live there. This is not where you're from. 90% of the time. So
Yeah, I mean, definitely. That's one of the things that kind of stood out to me too. Just thinking about how the police interact in with our community,
mhm.
and I seen like a viral video that just went through my feed, like last week. There was
Mhm.
a white male officer that was just kind of like dancing with the
Dancing,
kids,
yeah, yeah, I
and
saw
I
him.
was like, he was totally looking crazy out there, but he was having fun. And the
Yeah.
kids enjoyed it. And I was like, there you go, making great, interaction with the youth.
Mhm.
I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I was like, I need to see more of that.
Yeah,
Yeah. And one of the things I felt like we need to spark in our communities is for the youth to want to become a part of law enforcement.
mhm.
That needs to happen, because the worst thing that happens is when you have people coming from a whole nother area coming into your
Mhm.
area and policing the people in this community that doesn't really know this community. So
Yeah,
that was one of the things I was like, we need to like increase the, interest from the
yeah,
youth to join the law enforcement so they
and
can police their own people.
and I think that a lot of this, like, so, because I don't want people to ever think that it's not members of their community policing their community. But I would say it's also hard to police your community when you come from that community as well,
Mm,
right?
hmm.
Because if I have to, have an ethical discussion of whether I would lock up my mother if she commits a crime, it's kind of hard to choose, right? Because you're gonna
Yeah.
have sort of emotional attachment to it. So that's
Hmm.
probably why a lot of us do not stay in the place where we grew up to police. Now, those who do, I believe that they are officers of the highest, I would say of the highest
Yeah.
caliber, because
Hmm.
it just takes a lot to be able to be in your own community and people know who you are, know where you live, and things like that, and be
Right.
able to be respected as a community member. Because a lot of the things that do happen with law enforcement nowadays, so I definitely say kudos to those individuals, those officers, you know, because it is difficult to police your own community.
I never thought about it like that. I
Mhm.
thank you so much for giving that perspective. Honestly, like mind blown. Learn something new every day. I never
Yeah.
thought about it like that, and I thought, wow, that makes a lot of sense. I can totally see me working in that field. I would
Mhm.
not want people to know where I live.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
just that alone is kind of like, yeah. Do you know who my kids are? You know who my
Mhm.
husband is? Like,
Mhm.
yeah, the safety that goes along with that is a big deal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, like you said,
Like,
the moral decision
yeah,
of making, like, what if I grew up with somebody like that, and I
yeah.
got lock this person up that I grew up with, so
That's definitely a question that they asked us,
yeah.
when we first, like, if you had to do it, would you do it? And it's like,
Hmm.
yes, I would do it. It would suck, but I would do
Yeah.
it. So, and it's just like, dealing with the backlash of, testifying, could you even testify against your own in court, So it's just like, is that a conflict of interest? Would they remove you or recuse you? So
Hmm.
there's a lot that goes into it.
That makes a lot of sense. That definitely makes a lot of sense. Well, thank you so much, Will, I'm sorry, DMV Renovations, for answering the question in the chat for us. I appreciate the support and answering that question. We had some latecomers and they were just like, well, who is this woman? What is she talking about? So, DMV Renovations, you just summed it up in one little quick sentence. I appreciate that. So when it comes to this whole thing of education, though, inside the gun community, I can't stress how important it is to have that moral and ethical decision making piece into that. How does that, I guess what I want to ask you about that is, because you train civilians, but you also train police or security as
Mhm.
far as doing that training. Is there like big differences in you guys' discussions, or is it very similar when it comes to those moral and ethical decision making when using a gun?
Very, very different. Um, very different. Civilians, I would say, we have to teach our civilians that self defense has to be the very, 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 very last thing when it comes to using that firearm. We want you to use non-lethal means first. De-escalation first. And then I would say for police, it's the same as far as morally and ethically, but our decision making it's never in 2020 hindsight, right? We
Mhm.
can't, look at a situation and try to say, well, the police officer thought this, he felt this, he felt. It's very, very, very different. Typically, the police are very reactionary. Like we're going to something, it's not something that's typically happening to us,
Mhm.
right? I would say that is the difference in the civilian side. Like, the civilian is encountering this first person,
Right.
right? We're receiving news about something and going to begin an investigation on what we see, right? Or what we've
Mhm.
heard, right? So I would say it's very, very different, not in the morals and the ethics of it, but in the context of it.
That makes sense. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Put it in that perspective. So, which brings me to my next question. Based on one of the other little TikTok videos, whenever I came across, I don't know
Mm-hmm.
if you guys seen this video where there was a like a rookie officer taking the firearm off of the, what do you call it again? The person,
The subject, yes.
the subject, and they accidentally shot the subject. So
Mm.
this is where I was like, I can't believe this happened. This is one of the things that I teach in my class, that if
Mm-hmm.
you're ever in a situation where the police needs to take your firearm, that you would just put your hands up and say, Officer, my firearm is located here, and you let them take that firearm off of you.
Right.
Now, my mind is like, is that the wrong thing to teach?
Um, Definitely not the wrong thing to teach. I hate that one officer is now the example for every officer out there. You know, um, it's kind of like, this is now the one that's most broadcast. I
Mhm.
hate that it was also a female officer.
Yeah.
Um, Honestly, like, in my opinion, and this is just my opinion simply, I would have removed the holster in its entirety before removing the firearm, just because um, I am an instructor, right? And I would know, like, I would want that person to feel as safe in this encounter as possible,
Right.
right? So, it's very, very, very hard to determine, you know, this officer's training, right? What was behind really, like, the removal of the male from the vehicle, besides him saying that he did have a firearm. You
Mhm.
know, me, I might have asked for the credentials for the firearm first, before, and then if I needed to inspect, um, I would then inspect, and then for me, like, this is just one of those things that is unfortunately being broadcast, and I don't think that it's happened very often.
I don't
So
think so
it's
either. No.
just it's just one of those things that um it's kind of like, it's just one of those things that happen, and unfortunately it happened to this officer. And now they're questioning, oh, how is she an officer? She handles a firearm every day, and she's there, like, but I don't believe that officers are firearm experts. you
Right.
know this is someone that does a job, you know and I don't believe that her entire career should be magnified and red scarred on her white ledger because of one mistake that she's made, unfortunately. But I
Mhm.
mean, that one thing is what's going to carry on through her career, unfortunately.
Right. That is the sad truth about it. I mean, honestly, she's being held under a microscope and being put on display to say this is what happens when you let a police officer take a firearm off of you. I mean,
Mhm.
I think for me, it was one of those things where I'm like, wow, I've never heard of this happening before. Am I teaching the wrong thing?
No,
So,
definitely not.
yeah, that's where it got
The
me.
Yeah,
So,
disarming people that have firearms is something that we do. You
mhm,
know, even in the the lowest forms of policing, like the being a DC SPO. Like I've got gun recoveries that have never led to the discharge of a firearm. It's just kind of like you know
unfortunate.
it's
Yeah.
unfortunate, and it
Yeah.
goes back to training,
Mhm.
whether or not they're teaching their officers to remove the full the full holster, or to
Mhm.
remove the firearm itself and then the holster. But it's just it's training at the end of the day,
Yeah.
and a lot of officers, a lot of departments, you know, especially with the reallocation of funding,
Mhm.
it's been training is not one of the main concerns as much as pushing the de-escalation community policing agenda.
Mhm. So it looks like we have a question in the chat for you. Michael asks us, so do you feel that you have more training than a cop?
um I've encountered a lot that a lot of officers have not encountered, just because I've worked in some of the roughest, toughest neighborhoods throughout the district. I don't think that would kind of allow me to go to any city and do the same thing. I would have to relearn that community, learn what's going on in that sector of the world that I would now be relocated in.
Mhm.
But what I would say is that I've probably been involved in more shootings than the average officer, just because of where I've been. Like my first day on the job, I had 7.62s flying through past my ears, and it was actually something that kind of motivated me to stay where I was, all the action involved in it, because you're there amongst the community, even though you're, not in the public sector.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, when it comes to this whole thing of, first of all, I want to go back to the chat box area real quick. I just have to say thank you, Lioness Defense, for joining. So, when it comes to this whole thing about taking the firearm off of the person, I do
Mhm.
like the thought process of actually removing the holster. you
Yes.
know Once again, that's something I haven't considered, so that is something that I can definitely maybe teach in my classes now, and to say,
Hmm.
hey, maybe request the officer takes the entire holster off versus
Yes.
just the gun. So maybe that can be it, because I do go through the whole motion of making sure my students understand that police officers are people just like us, security
Hmm.
officers people just like us. The difference is you guys are like, your life is on the line every second of the day, and so is your family in a
Hmm.
sense, because now people want to threaten your family because of what you may have to do to them because they committed a crime
Hmm.
you know but at the end of the day, it's like you're going into this situation, like you said before, that has nothing to do with you, but you're coming here to try to de-escalate or fix the situation or end
Hmm.
whatever stuff is going on that's bad.
Hmm.
But the whole notion that your life is on the line for something that you have nothing to deal with is a psychological thing right there. It's a psychological warfare that you're going through constantly. So
Hmm.
I feel like as a civilian, it's my job to make sure that you feel okay, that you feel
Hmm.
safe with me.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not trying to harm you in any way. So we cannot, escalate this situation even further. So
Hmm.
that's one of the things I'm always teaching to all of my students. So I really hope that anybody out here listening and watching, comply. Please comply.
Hmm.
Don't make the situation worse than what it has to be. So
And
someone said,
just to answer, like, Will there yet, you can have an on the waistband holster. Me, I'm gonna take the time and I'm gonna ask you if you feel comfortable with me removing the belt and the holster at the same time. It's just taking an extra step. Honestly, it's there are ways to mitigate lots of situations, subject injury, officer injury. Just use your head a little bit more.
Mhm.
There We're trying to get the situation resolved in a reasonable time frame and manner. And if you think that, if you can ask, you can always ask, like, excuse me, do you mind if I remove the belt, to access the holster? Or if you don't feel comfortable with me as a woman, would you rather prefer this officer do it? How would you want to do this? Because eventually, if this person has committed a crime and they're under a probable cause arrest, you're going to have to remove everything anyway.
Mhm. Yeah, so that's a whole nother thing. What things do well, Linus Defense was definitely speaking of those things too that you were talking about as far as removing the whole thing, and it does take a certain dialogue. So thank you guys both for putting those two things together. Honestly, the dialogue is what's really the important piece.
Mhm.
I feel like, you're in this high energy space, and then you have to
Mhm.
find a way to have dialogue in a
Correct.
calm way. Like
Mm.
that takes a professional. That takes
Correct.
training. So all this whole idea of defund the police, I never understood that. That didn't make sense to me because I'm like, no, don't defund the police. Instead, put the funds specifically to training for police. They need more
Mhm.
training, if anything. So I always
Hmm.
felt like that put us at a disadvantage to defund the police. That never made sense. So
I wouldn't say that they could actually defund. It's just a sexy way to say reallocate funds to something
mhm.
else.
Yeah.
Because yeah, that it's all about framing. How the
hmm
media frames things and what's going to sound good to get the public, inspired behind or rallied behind this cause.
Right, right. Yeah. And Linus Defense, no worries. We understood what you were saying. It's all right. Got typos. We typing fast out here. I understand.
Mhm.
So one of the things I did want to ask you about as far as the male versus female, is there certain things that in this community is expected for a woman to address and deal with that a man is not necessarily expected to address and deal with? You know?
Um, of course, and that's just because in certain situations, women are going to want to address women, men are going to want to address men. You can't take
Okay.
it personally, especially with different cultures. You
Yeah.
can't take it personally. You just have to do your job at the end of the day.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's one of those things where I see that also with training, as far as civilians go, a lot of times you'll have students that come to our company specifically because we advertise having women instructors. And so
Hmm.
it's like, hey, I'm a woman, I'm a female, I want to have a woman instructor.
Hmm.
Like you said, no harm, no hard feelings to the guy out
Hmm.
there. I just probably feel a little bit more comfortable having a woman instructor
Hmm.
because I'm a female.
Hmm.
So, and I feel like that's reciprocal, like you said, with having an officer,
Hmm.
to be the same gender. Usually that kind of just feels more comfortable for the person there. Yeah. So let's see. Robert, you said, hey guys, we live in America. It really doesn't matter that you're a woman. I'm FFL '07 with '02 set. You have no idea with that education yourself so that, okay, can put out better content. Oh, okay. I see what you're going at here. So we're all entitled to our own opinion, Robert. I'm just going to sit there and say that. I don't necessarily agree with everything that everyone says to me either. And I do think that gender is a factor in a lot of things that we do or don't do in this world.
Hmm.
So, regardless of where you are, America or anywhere else, gender is going to play a big role in everything. uh,
Yeah.
yeah, because it allows us to decide, how maybe aggressive we come to a situation or not. You know,
Hmm.
if we talk first or if we punch first. Just in gender, that's gonna kind of dictate those type of things. I mean, honestly, even like in my own home, I have daughters, and my husband, one of the things he said, man, I just need to get them some boxing gloves and I need to let them go at it. I said, really? That is not how we're going to do with our little ladies here. No, no.
Hmm.
See, one thing about girls that I know of, once we
Hmm.
become enemies with somebody, we're enemies with somebody. Well, guys can tend to fight things out, and then whoever
Yeah.
wins is the dominant, then the other person's not the dominant, and they okay with that, and they live on with life, and everything's good. But with
Mhm.
girls, no. Once you become an enemy, you're an enemy for life.
Yeah.
And so we don't want to create that in our own home. So I was
Mhm.
like, we can't go about that same way. And
Mhm.
so that's just a gender difference right there that I would say.
Mhm.
At least that's my opinion on the take.
Mhm.
And so, well, I thank you so much for joining. I'm not going to keep everybody longer tonight. I know everybody went to work and we're tired from the day. I really had a great conversation with you. I hope it
Same.
was reciprocal. Good.
Yeah.
And I just, want to know if you want to leave us with some extra little things here, some extra little nuggets to take with us.
I guess it's just about, your perception of events every time, whether, you be a male, you be a female, other, I believe that when it comes to doing what we do, we are bridging the gap. Like we're bridging the gap as women, and I believe that, that's very, very important, especially since, in our communities, there can be communities of more women than there are men. So, in the security agencies and the law enforcement realm, being able to speak to another female officer and get her, one on one is always, something that I've enjoyed, especially females that have, large career paths and career goals and have gained rank, and I believe that is something that we need to, continue to look forward to as we move on through the years to see more, women empowerment and women in these positions. So it's something that I believe we're going to continue to strive in, getting females in, positions of power within the security agencies and law enforcement.
I appreciate that. Thank you for saying that. And I definitely agree. And I wish you the best success at getting those goals achieved because honestly, women bring a whole nother, piece to it all. We are nurturers by nature. And the fact is that when we come into any profession, any field, that's kind of what we bring with us. Not to
Mhm.
say that every woman is a mother and that every woman
Mhm.
should be a mother. That's not the case, but in nature generally we are always trying to help and nurture
Mhm.
a situation, and regardless if it's a family member, a friend, or just a
Mhm.
complete stranger out there. And that's just a whole nother dynamic that I think, bringing a nice little touch to this, sector, this field would be great because we're servicing the community.
Mhm.
And so sometimes it takes a strong arm to service that community, but sometimes it takes a good, calm spirited person, a nurturing hand to help that community as well. So I think
Mhm.
bridging that gap with those balances there is really important. So I really am enjoying the fact that we're having more women in this community.
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
no
And thank,
problem. And
yeah.
I did want to answer Big Daddy 444 really quick.
Mhm.
Civilian arrests are real. However, they do come with a large amount of scrutiny, should I say, because in order to arrest someone as a civilian, it has to be felonious. And you want to perceive an immediate threat first. And that's it takes on some personal responsibility and some personal liability. So if you do make a civilian, arrest, you want to make sure that this person has committed a felony before you even try to take that kind of action. My recommendation would be to call the police first because they have, the protections of an agency as you as a person would be subject to possible civil suit and possible criminal action if you don't make the right decision.
That was great advice. I appreciate you answering that question. Yeah, that was a great question, sir. Thank you for putting that out there. So, I mean, honestly, this, I can't say it enough how much I really enjoy helping our community. And you guys have been awesome putting things in the chat box area, asking questions for Miss Asia to answer. As you see, she's an expert at this subject matter. And when it comes to this, I've definitely taken a couple of nuggets from you today that I'm definitely going to keep with me, put that in my little pocket there, and I'm going to share this with the world some more, because honestly, it has been really a benefit talking to you and learning your perspective on this field. I mean, we got to get more women out there. Ladies, if you're out there interested in the security world, police officer world, join Miss Asia in that community and help protect our community. We need it. I appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for your work.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So you guys definitely check out some more of the videos that we have here. We have a whole lot other conversations that are talking about various topics in our community. If you do think of something that we haven't talked about that you'd like to learn more about, or we have talked about that you want to learn more about, please put that in the chat box area. I'm always taking a look at the comments to be able to better the subjects and better the conversation for you guys. So you can stay equipped. I mean, honestly, that's what it's all about. I want you guys to stay equipped with the knowledge and the skills that you need to defend and protect yourself every day. So, without further ado, have a good night, you guys.
Night, guys.
Thank y'all so much for joining.